A man dressed in worn-out clothes, scuffed shoes, and unkempt hair stepped into a lavish bank in the heart of Beverly Hills. The moment he crossed the threshold, all eyes in the room instinctively turned toward him. Some furrowed their brows in displeasure, others whispered to each other in hushed voices, while the bank employees exchanged glances filled with barely concealed disdain. To them, he was an outsider, someone who did not belong in a place of such opulence. But what none of them knew, what none of them could have possibly imagined, was that this man was one of the wealthiest individuals on the planet. He walked with a quiet confidence, unshaken by the unwelcoming atmosphere. As he approached the counter, the tension in the room thickened. Conversations slowed, then ceased altogether. The air was charged with an almost imperceptible discomfort, as if his mere presence had thrown off the natural order of things. Then, the moment of truth arrived. He reached into his pocket and retrieved a single, crumpled bill. $20. He placed it on the counter with an air of calm certainty, as though it were a small fortune. And that was when the laughter began. Not the kind of laughter that comes from amusement, but the kind that cuts deep, sharp, biting, dripping with condescension. The bank employees exchanged knowing looks, their smirks widening. A well-dressed customer, wearing a diamond-encrusted watch, leaned over to whisper to his companion, his voice laced with mockery. "Who does this guy think he is? This bank isn't for people like him." The remark was met with a few quiet chuckles. No one stopped to consider why he was here. No one asked themselves if there was more to his story. They saw only what was on the surface. What none of them realized, what none of them could have foreseen, was that in just a few days, every single person in that room would regret their assumptions. Because what was happening in that bank on this seemingly ordinary day was not just a routine rejection. It was the beginning of a lesson in arrogance, prejudice, and the fundamental truth about how the world truly operates. But who was this man? And what had led him to step into this institution disguised as someone so seemingly unworthy of attention? Beverly Hills, a place where just one step inside is enough to make you feel the overwhelming presence of wealth and power. A place where the very air seems infused with privilege, where success is measured not by ambition or intellect, but by the weight of your wallet and the prestige of your last name. The wide boulevards stretch endlessly under the golden California sun, flanked by towering palm trees that stand in perfect formation, as if bowing to the financial royalty that frequent these streets. Lamborghinis, Bentleys, and Rolls-Royces glide smoothly along the pristine roads, their glossy exteriors reflecting the brilliance of the midday sun. Here, cars are not just a means of transportation. They are a statement, a badge of honor, a declaration of one's place in the world. In Beverly Hills, money is not merely a tool, it is an identity. If you are rich, the world bends to your will. If you step out of a Maybach, hotel staff will rush to open your door. If you walk into a high-end boutique, they will unlock their doors after hours just for you. But if you do not exude wealth, if your clothing does not bear the mark of exclusivity, if your shoes are not made of the finest leather polished to perfection, then to them, you do not exist. No one sees you, no one acknowledges you. You are invisible. The outsider in a city of elite. And yet, on this very street where extravagance is worshipped, a lone figure walks among them. A man who is entirely out of place. He does not arrive in a chauffeur-driven car. He does not wear tailored designer suits. He does not have the glint of gold on his wrist, nor the shimmer of a platinum card in his hand. Instead, he wears a worn-out jacket, a pair of faded jeans, and sneakers that once were white, but have long since surrendered to time and use. A battered baseball cap sits low on his forehead, shielding most of his face from view. But even through the shadow, his eyes remain sharp, observant, calculating. The eyes of a man who is taking in every detail of the world around him. Unlike the people surrounding him, he walks. While others ride in comfort, their hands gripping the wheels of six-figure automobiles, he moves one step at a time, slowly, deliberately. He looks straight ahead. Meanwhile, everyone else looks at him. The gaze of the privileged. A middle-aged man steps out of an exclusive watch boutique, a brand-new Rolex nestled safely in a velvet-lined case. But as soon as he spots the poorly dressed man walking toward him, his expression instantly changes. His posture stiffens. His brows knit together in a subtle but unmistakable frown, as though the mere presence of such a person could taint the very air around him. Without thinking, he adjusts his sleeve, pulling it just slightly over his watch, concealing the luxury on his wrist before briskly walking away, not sparing a single glance back. Across the street, a woman draped in high fashion, a Hermes bag swinging elegantly from her forearm, emerges from a designer store. She is radiant, poised, every inch the image of refined wealth. Until she sees him. Her lips curl, her nose wrinkles, as though she has just caught the scent of something unpleasant. She grabs the arm of the man beside her, her grip tightening in undisguised discomfort. Her voice, laced with disgust, is loud enough for anyone nearby to hear. Another homeless person? I swear this place is going downhill. The man accompanying her lets out a mocking chuckle, his gaze flicking briefly toward the lone figure before turning back to her. Maybe he thinks one day he'll walk into Gucci and buy himself a new wardrobe, he sneers. Their laughter lingers in the air, sharp and piercing, meant to cut through the man like a blade. Yet he does not react. He simply keeps walking, unmoved, unaffected. Because he has heard it all before. Because this is not the first time he has been judged. Nobody knows who he really is. What none of them realize, what none of them could even fathom, is the man they are mocking, sneering at, looking down upon, is Elon Musk, one of the richest individuals on Earth. The visionary behind Tesla, SpaceX, Neuralink, and countless billion-dollar ventures. A man who could purchase the very bank where they keep their money with nothing more than a casual decision. But today, Elon Musk is not here as a billionaire. He is not the CEO of Tesla. He is not the founder of SpaceX. He is not the man whose face graces the covers of Forbes, Bloomberg, and every major financial publication in the world. Today, he is simply a nobody. This was never a coincidence. This is not an accident. This is not a mistake. He planned this. He deliberately let his beard grow out longer than usual. He avoided haircuts for weeks, allowing his appearance to become rough, unkempt. He chose this outfit carefully, making sure every piece of clothing looked as though it had seen better days. He prepared every tiny detail, from the worn soles of his sneakers to the faded cap pulled low over his face. Because this is a social experiment. Because there is a question that has haunted him for years. How does the world treat those who have nothing? Elon Musk has seen the world from the highest vantage point. He has stood beside presidents and world leaders. He has negotiated with the most powerful investors on the planet. He has shaped entire industries, revolutionized transportation and space travel, and built fortunes beyond imagination. But a thought has always lingered in his mind. How does the world treat people when they have nothing to offer? If a man walks into a bank, not as Elon Musk, billionaire entrepreneur, not as a tech mogul with global influence, not as one of the most powerful figures in modern business, but as a nameless, faceless, penniless stranger, would he be treated with basic human respect? Would he receive the same service that the bank's motto claims to provide for all customers? Or would he be turned away without a second thought? And more importantly, if one day someone truly fell into such circumstances, would they find compassion? The doorway to truth? There is only one way to get the answer. See it for himself. Elon Musk stops walking. He lifts his head, his gaze falling upon the grand structure in front of him. A massive, gleaming skyscraper, its glass walls reflecting the brilliance of the California sun. Etched onto a towering sign near the entrance, bold and gleaming in the light, are the words, First Summit Bank, an institution known for serving the wealthy elite. A place where millionaires deposit their fortunes. A business where employees grin enthusiastically at clients who arrive in tailored suits and chauffeur-driven cars. But will they smile just as warmly at a man like him? Without hesitation, Elon Musk reaches for the glass door handle and pulls it open. He steps inside. And he has no idea that what happens next will forever change the way he sees the world. Elon Musk stepped through the glass doors of First Summit Bank. A place where, with just one glance, one could immediately sense the overwhelming presence of wealth, exclusivity, and prestige. The moment his foot touched the gleaming marble floor, the atmosphere inside shifted in an almost imperceptible yet undeniable way. It was not because a celebrity had walked in. It was not because a high-profile client had arrived. It was because someone who did not look like they belonged had dared to step inside. The unwritten rules of status. Conversations that had been lively just moments before faltered, then ceased altogether. The background hum of small talk, the gentle clinking of porcelain cups as customers enjoyed their complimentary espresso, all faded into an unnatural silence. And then the whispers started. Subtle, low, but unmistakable. All eyes turned toward him. Some people merely glanced his way before looking away quickly, as if making eye contact with him might somehow taint their own existence. Others, however, did not bother to conceal their expressions of irritation and contempt. A woman in an elegant Gucci silk dress, her Hermes handbag resting delicately on her wrist, instinctively drew it closer to her body, as though merely standing near this man might diminish its worth. Across the room, a businessman in a charcoal gray suit, wearing a platinum Patek Philippe watch, glanced up from his Wall Street journal. He studied the scene for half a second, let out a quiet scoff, then turned back to his newspaper, dismissing the man's presence entirely. No one spoke to him. Yet their thoughts were louder than words ever could be. He does not belong here. What is someone like him doing in this place? Does he even realize where he is? What none of them knew, what none of them could even begin to comprehend, was that the man they were silently mocking could buy this entire bank and everyone in it with a single decision. A world for the elite, where the forgotten remain invisible. Inside First Summit Bank, everything was designed to radiate affluence, power, and exclusivity. Flawless marble floors, so polished they reflected the images of those who walked upon them. Crystal chandeliers imported from Italy, hanging elegantly from impossibly high ceilings, casting a golden glow over the space. Hand-stitched leather armchairs arranged in small clusters, where VIP clients could relax as they waited for their private bankers to cater to their every need. This was not just a financial institution. It was a fortress of wealth. A sanctuary built only for those deemed worthy. And to those within its walls, worth was measured in dollar signs. Elon Musk moved toward the counter. His steps were steady, controlled, deliberate. He did not look around in hesitation. He did not fidget under the weight of their judgment. And that, more than anything else, seemed to make them uncomfortable. Hidden contempt behind polished smiles. Behind the sleek white marble counter, a well-groomed woman with a pristine chignon stood poised. Her name tag read, Marilyn. From a distance, she looked like the embodiment of professionalism, the perfect image of a banker working for an elite financial institution. But when her eyes landed on Elon, something flickered across her face for just a split second. A hesitation, a slight tightening of her lips, the faintest narrowing of her gaze. It was subtle but unmistakable. She did not want to waste her time on him. Still, years of corporate training kept her mask in place. Her voice when she spoke was perfectly measured, polite, but detached. "How may I assist you today?" Elon did not flinch. He did not avert his gaze, nor did he shift his weight like someone unsure of their own presence. Instead, he looked directly into Marilyn's eyes, his tone as steady as his posture. "I would like to open a bank account." The room stills, a moment of disbelief. For a brief moment, there was only silence, a pause, a hesitation. A ripple of tension spread through the space. Somewhere in the background, a customer set down his espresso cup a little too forcefully. A woman in a fitted navy dress, seated near the counter, subtly turned her body just enough to eavesdrop. Behind Marilyn, another banker who had been typing away on his computer, stopped mid-keystroke, now listening intently. Marilyn blinked. Then, her lips curled upward in a slow, controlled smirk. It was not a warm smile. It was not a polite smile. It was a condescending smile. A smile that barely masked the amusement in her voice as she responded. "I see," she said smoothly, her tone dripping with feigned courtesy. "Well, here at First Summit Bank, We require a minimum deposit of $500 to open a new account. Do you have that amount with you today? A single bill changes everything. Elon did not answer right away. Instead, he slowly reached into his pocket. The tension in the room grew. Some onlookers were expecting, hoping, that he would fumble, that he would realize his mistake, that he would retreat in embarrassment. But he did none of those things. He simply pulled out a single crumpled bill, a $20 bill, and he placed it carefully on the counter. When money decides a man's worth. The silence that followed was no longer just tension. It was disbelief. Marilyn's smirk, for the briefest of moments. Her brows twitched slightly, as though she was processing something utterly ridiculous. Then her amusement returned, but sharper, crueler this time. From a nearby counter, a male banker, who had been watching the exchange, nudged his colleague. Both of them chuckled softly. Marilyn took a slow breath, as if composing herself before delivering a line she found almost too absurd to say aloud. "I'm afraid that's not enough." Elon's expression remained unreadable. "But it's money, isn't it?" he asked, his voice even, measured. Marilyn exhaled a quiet laugh, tilting her head slightly. "Sir," she said, the fake politeness now barely veiling her disdain, "this bank serves clients with significant financial means. You don't meet that requirement. Perhaps you'd be more comfortable at a local credit union." Laughter rippled softly through the room. A middle-aged man in a navy suit shook his head, exchanging knowing looks with the woman beside him. A younger banker smirked at his monitor, pretending to work. Someone near the espresso station muttered under his breath, "He really thought he could open an account here?" Security is summoned. A uniformed security guard approached. His expression was neutral. His posture was rigid. "Sir," he said in a tone that left no room for discussion, "if you're not conducting legitimate business, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." Elon did not argue. He did not plead. He simply reached out, picked up the $20 bill, folded it, and tucked it back into his pocket. Then, without a word, he turned and walked toward the exit. As he stepped out into the sunlight, he felt their gazes still piercing into his back. But he did not leave entirely. He crossed the street, sat down on a bench, and he watched. Because even a room full of contempt, not everyone had left. Elon Musk sat in silence on the cold, hard bench across from First Summit Bank, the very place that had just dismissed him as if he were nothing. His fingers pressed lightly against the crumpled $20 bill still tucked in his pocket, his gaze fixed on the entrance of the grand building. He watched as people came and went, their movements fluid, their postures confident, their faces untouched by what had transpired only moments ago. They all looked the same in some way, polished, poised, radiating wealth and privilege, gliding through life without ever needing to question how it felt to be turned away. Their steps were purposeful. Their voices carried a quiet authority. Their eyes never strayed toward anything or anyone they deemed unimportant. And in that moment, Elon realized something. This world was far too comfortable with its own injustice. Nobody questioned it. Nobody objected. Nobody even felt that anything was wrong. But then, in that sea of indifference, something caught his attention. A pair of eyes. Unlike the gazes of judgment and quiet arrogance he had faced inside, these eyes held something different. They did not bear contempt. They did not hold amusement. They did not revel in his humiliation. Instead, they reflected something else entirely. Hesitation, discomfort, a flicker of unease. And for the first time since stepping foot into that bank, Elon saw someone who had not laughed. A silent observer behind the counter. His gaze followed the eyes to their owner, a young woman. She sat behind one of the teller counters, wearing the standard corporate attire of the bank, blending seamlessly with her surroundings. Except for one thing, she was not like the others. While her colleagues had scoffed and sneered, while they had exchanged smug glances and whispered jokes, she had remained silent. While Marilyn had curled her lips in disdain, speaking to him as though he were a nuisance rather than a human being, this woman had only watched. She had seen everything. The smirks, the condescension, the way the security guard had stepped forward as if dealing with an unwanted pest rather than a customer. But unlike the rest of them, She had not participated. She had simply sat there, her fingers motionless over the keyboard, her eyes betraying something that no one else in that building seemed capable of feeling. Doubt. The internal struggle of Clara. Her name was Clara. She was not a senior employee. She was not someone with power or authority. She was merely an intern, a young woman who had only been working at the bank for a few months, still learning its rules and unspoken hierarchies. And perhaps that was why she had not yet been consumed by them. Clara had come here full of ambition, eager to prove herself in a world that valued power and money above all else. But what she had witnessed today, it unsettled her. It wasn't just the way Marilyn had smirked when rejecting the $20 bill. It wasn't just the way her colleagues had treated Elon like a joke, as if his mere presence in their bank was a source of amusement rather than reflection. It was his expression as he walked away. Not anger, not humiliation, but acceptance. A calm, quiet acknowledgement that this was how the world worked. That he had known exactly how they would react before he even stepped foot inside. And that was what disturbed Clara the most. Because if he already knew the outcome, why had he still done it? A restless mind refuses to forget. For the rest of the day, Clara could not shake the image from her mind. She sat at her desk, staring blankly at her computer screen, barely processing the numbers and transactions before her. Her hands moved automatically, but her thoughts drifted back to that single moment. The crumpled $20 bill on the pristine marble counter. The shift in the atmosphere when Elon placed it down. The way Marilyn's face had twisted in amusement, as if she had been waiting for this exact moment to belittle someone. Why was this bothering her? Every day, customers came and went. Some were turned away for not meeting the bank's financial requirements. But why did this time feel different? Was it because the rejection had come so easily? Was it because no one, not a single person, had paused to consider that maybe, just maybe, there was something deeply wrong with this? Or was it because she had done nothing to stop it? A world where cruelty is normalized. Clara glanced over at Marilyn's desk. The woman was smiling, speaking to a new client. This time, a man in a tailored suit, his Rolex catching the overhead light. Her voice was warm, inviting, professional, as if she had not, just an hour ago, dismissed someone with icy contempt. As if nothing had happened. And that, Clara realized, was the worst part of all. To Marilyn, to her colleagues, to the customers in that bank, this was just another normal day. The world had conditioned them to see nothing wrong with cruelty disguised as policy. And for the first time since starting this job, Clara felt deeply, profoundly ashamed. A sleepless night, and a decision made in darkness. That night, Clara could not sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, her thoughts refusing to quiet down. She replayed the moment in her head over and over again. Marilyn's smirk, Elon's silent understanding, the laughter that had followed him out the door. She had wanted to believe that she was different, that she would never be like them. But she had sat there. She had watched. And she had done nothing. She clenched her fists under the covers, frustration building in her chest. Tomorrow, she decided, she would not sit by and watch. Tomorrow, she would act, even if it meant going against the very culture she was expected to conform to. A reckless choice, the moment of truth. The next morning, Clara walked into the bank with a purpose she had never felt before. She did not go straight to her desk. Instead, she turned toward the front windows. And there, just as she had hoped, he was still there. Elon Musk sat on the same bench as the day before, his posture relaxed but his eyes keenly observant. He was not fidgeting, he was not pacing. He was simply watching. Watching as the world continued to move around him, unchanged, unaffected by what had transpired yesterday. A world built on prejudice. We live in a world where people are not judged by their character, but by the image they present to others. If you step out of a luxury car, if you wear a perfectly tailored suit, if you carry yourself with the effortless grace of someone who belongs in the upper echelons of society, the world welcomes you with open arms. But if you do not fit the mold, if you wear simple clothes, if your shoes are not polished, if you lack the visual cues of wealth, you are dismissed, you are ignored, you are judged. And most of the time, those judgments are never questioned. But what most people fail to realize is that true wealth does not need to be displayed. The most powerful individuals, the ones who actually shape the world, not just live in it, do not need to prove anything. They do not need to wear gold-plated watches or drive exotic cars to command respect, because their influence transcends material possessions. And one day they will remind the world of that fact. Never judge a person by their appearance. This is not just a story about Elon Musk. This is a story about all of us. Have you ever walked into an upscale store only to feel the cold indifference of sales associates who didn't think you looked rich enough to be worth their time? Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly simply because they did not fit society's standard of success? Have you ever, even if only for a moment, looked down on someone just because they did not appear to be important? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to stop and ask yourself, how many times have I been wrong? Because every person you meet has a story you do not know. Every person you dismiss has potential you have yet to see. And every person you underestimate may one day prove you terribly, terribly wrong. Who will you choose to be? Today you have a choice. You can be like Marilyn and the others at the bank, the ones who judge, who assume, who categorize people before they even speak. Or you can be like Clara, the one who was brave enough to step outside, to ask a question no one else dared to ask, to help when no one else would. And the difference between these two choices? One will live with regret, the other will change the world. So, who will you choose to be? Share your thoughts. Have you ever been judged based on your appearance alone? Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly simply because they didn't look the part? Tell your story in the comments, because your words might just make someone rethink the way they see the world. And if this story resonated with you, hit the subscribe button, because we have so many more stories that will change the way you think. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. A world built on prejudice. We live in a world where people are not judged by their character, but by the image they present to others. If you step out of a luxury car, if you wear a perfectly tailored suit, if you carry yourself with the effortless grace of someone who belongs in the upper echelons of society, the world welcomes you with open arms. But if you do not fit the mold, if you wear simple clothes, if your shoes are not polished, if you lack the visual cues of wealth, you are dismissed, you are ignored, you are judged. And most of the time, those judgments are never questioned. But what most people fail to realize is that true wealth does not need to be displayed. The most powerful individuals, the ones who actually shape the world, not just live in it, do not need to prove anything. They do not need to wear gold-plated watches or drive exotic cars to command respect, because their influence transcends material possessions. And one day they will remind the world of that fact. Never judge a person by their appearance. This is not just a story about Elon Musk. This is a story about all of us. Have you ever walked into an upscale store only to feel the cold indifference of sales associates who didn't think you looked rich enough to be worth their time? Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly simply because they did not fit society's standard of success? Have you ever, even if only for a moment, looked down on someone just because they did not appear to be important? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to stop and ask yourself, how many times have I been wrong? Because every person you meet has a story you do not know. Every person you dismiss has potential you have yet to see. And every person you underestimate may one day prove you terribly, terribly wrong. Who will you choose to be? Today you have a choice. You can be like Marilyn and the others at the bank, the ones who judge, who assume, who categorize people before they even speak. Or you can be like Clara, the one who was brave enough to step outside, to ask a question no one else dared to ask, to help when no one else would. And the difference between these two choices? One will live with regret, The other will change the world. So, who will you choose to be? Share your thoughts. Have you ever been judged based on your appearance alone? Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly simply because they didn't look the part? Tell your story in the comments, because your words might just make someone rethink the way they see the world. And if this story resonated with you, hit the subscribe button, because we have so many more stories that will change the way you think. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. A world built on prejudice. We live in a world where people are not judged by their character, but by the image they present to others. If you step out of a luxury car, if you wear a perfectly tailored suit, if you carry yourself with the effortless grace of someone who belongs in the upper echelons of society, the world welcomes you with open arms. But if you do not fit the mold, if you wear simple clothes, if your shoes are not polished, if you lack the visual cues of wealth, you are dismissed, you are ignored, you are judged. And most of the time, those judgments are never questioned. But what most people fail to realize is that true wealth does not need to be displayed. The most powerful individuals, the ones who actually shape the world, not just live in it, do not need to prove anything. They do not need to wear gold-plated watches or drive exotic cars to command respect, because their influence transcends material possessions. And one day they will remind the world of that fact. Never judge a person by their appearance. This is not just a story about Elon Musk. This is a story about all of us. Have you ever walked into an upscale store only to feel the cold indifference of sales associates who didn't think you looked rich enough to be worth their time? Have you ever witnessed someone being treated unfairly simply because they did not fit society's standard of success? Have you ever, even if only for a moment, looked down on someone just because they did not appear to be important? If the answer is yes, then maybe it's time to stop and ask yourself, how many times have I been wrong? Because every person you meet has a story you do not know. Every person you dismiss has potential you have yet to see. And every person you underestimate may one day prove you terribly, terribly wrong. Who will you choose to be? Today you have a choice. You can be like Marilyn and the others at the bank, the ones who judge, who assume, who categorize people before they even speak. Or you can be like Clara, the one who was brave enough to step outside, to ask a question no one else dared to ask, to help when no one else would. And the difference between these two choices? One will live with regret, the other will change the world. So, who will you choose to be? Share your thoughts. Have you ever been judged based on your appearance alone? Have you ever seen someone treated unfairly simply because they didn't look the part? Tell your story in the comments, because your words might just make someone rethink the way they see the world. And if this story resonated with you, hit the subscribe button, because we have so many more stories that will change the way you think. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.